Fox 2 presents Hancock and Kelley.
And good Sunday morning. Welcome to Hancock and Kelley on Fox 2, where we take on the top issues of the week. On the right, John Hancock.
Top of the morning.
And on the left, Jane Duker in for Michael Kelley this morning. Morning, Jane.
Good morning. Happy to be here.
Great to have you. I'm Andy Banker. On the agenda, 12 days out from Election Day now, and elections have consequences. Missouri's new governor-to-be, Mike Kehoe, and his agenda, especially regarding the St. Louis Police Department. The new makeup of the St. Louis County Council. What does that mean for County Executive Sam Page? The peaceful transition of power at the White House. Joe Biden does something Donald Trump would not do. And in our quote of the week, uniting us all, the courageous fight of an injured Ferguson police officer. Also, St. Louis County Prosecutor Wesley Bell goes to Congress. Now there's a battle over picking his successor and the new balance of power in Congress. We begin with Fox 2's exclusive interview with Missouri's outgoing Republican governor, Mike Parson, setting the table for the new governor, Republican Mike Kehoe.
I want to make sure on day one they're ready to go. I don't want anybody to have to go through what we went through, trying to build a team, trying to make decisions, and just having so many things on your plate so quick.
One top issue for the new governor, and a heated one, is state control of St. Louis City Police Department. Kehoe favors using a state-appointed board made up of local leaders and the mayor to operate the department rather than just the mayor. Hundreds of officers have left the department, with Mayor Tashara Jones committed to shrinking the size of the SLPD. The city has been plagued with lawlessness in the interim, right? Long delays in answering 911 calls. The department was under state control for more than 150 years until voters approved local control in 2013. Mayor Jones and the police chief favor local control. How do you see it, John?
Well, obviously what they're doing isn't working. And whatever approach they've taken, whether it's a reduction in the staff size, whatever approach they've taken hasn't worked. So the current system is not going to fix this problem. And I think Governor-elect Kehoe, I don't think this is a panacea by any means, having a board, but at least you can have people on that board that support law enforcement and that support law and order. And I'm hopeful that this is a step and perhaps a significant step in the right direction.
State control, some kind of magic pill?
I do think so for officers. I think for the line officers, they really feel like that the system is not working for them. Their ranks are lower than they've ever been. I mean, by hundreds. I think they're 373 officers short. It's terrifying when you only have 2 officers in a single policing district. No calls are not getting answered. And, and that has an effect on crime stats. If you don't have police officers who can't answer calls, or 911 can't answer calls, well, of course crime's going to go down because crime isn't being reported. But you talk to citizens and they will tell you it's the #1 issue. 59% of Democrats nationwide believe that our response to crime in this country is not sufficient. That's a sea change from just 10 years ago when Democrats were, worried about over-policing. So I do think that the sea change, I hope, will happen, and that will be the beginning of it.
Homicides may be down, but
Yes.
Nobody feels safer.
Safe. Correct.
Right? But I don't get, A to B. Why does state control make it better?
Well, because one, I think you have an agenda with the mayor and, probably a majority of the Board of Aldermen that really don't think that law enforcement is necessary. They don't think that having a police presence in downtown after the 4th of July fireworks is necessary. And we saw what that looked like. You invited hundreds of thousands of citizens down to the riverfront, but had no policing when they walked out, and it was anarchy.
We need more numbers.
We need more numbers. We need a presence.
I think it's about that simple. And look, I'm not saying a board is going to suddenly magically fix the problem, but here's what they're going to do. They're going to focus their resources. They're going to try and fill those positions that are vacant, and they're going to have, I would suspect, if Mike Kehoe's appointing them, they're going to have the backs of those police officers who are doing the very dangerous work of keeping our community safe.
And transparency. Don't forget about that. I think a lot of people feel that there is an utter lack of transparency regarding the Office of Violence Prevention versus policing and the transfer of funds between programs.
And even the numbers, the crime statistics numbers, a lot of people don't believe those.
Well, they've been caught a couple of times not reporting at all or misreporting.
In the wake of the election, Democrat St. Louis County Executive Sam Page appears to be running out of allies on the St. Louis County Council. Democrats will still control 4 of the 7 council seats, but they are not necessarily politically friendly to Mr. Page. Also, voters approved allowing the council to hire its own legal representation instead of having to use the Page administration's legal team. How do you see this playing out for county residents, Jay?
I think it's good. I think county residents are making a statement that they want some change in St. Louis County government. And so I think by all accounts, it's going to be 6-1 against Sam Page. And so I think his policies are going to have to change. And I think he's going to have to try to engage with his council, or it's going to be a rough couple years for him.
Is he a lame duck?
Oh, I don't know. He hasn't said whether he plans to run again. But there is some good news here for Sam Page. You know, if he were on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, he'd only have to turn over 1 number for his phone a friend option. You know, it's he's got some tough days ahead.
Democrat St. Louis County Prosecutor Wesley Bell will soon be headed to Congress, ousting 2-term St. Louis progressive Cori Bush. Now a showdown is brewing between Governor Parson and County Executive Page over who gets to appoint Bell's successor. State statute and the county charter appear to conflict here. Jane, also complicating the matter in recent years, Parson did not fill a prosecutor vacancy in Republican St. Charles County. The county executive there did that.
Yeah, I do think this is going to be a court decision when it's all said and done. And I think you may have dueling appointments, and you may have dueling quo warranto proceedings, which is a removal proceeding, because I think Parson may quo the Page appointee, and the county councilor may quo the Parson appointee, and so then the courts are going to work this out. But there has to be one appointing authority. People need to know what the transition is, and so we're going to have to find that out, but I think it's going to slow things down a little bit.
Parson says state law trumps the local law, but is he only really exercising it when it benefits Republicans?
Well, first of all, we've had our inaugural mention of quo warranto here on the Hancock and Kelley show.
Lots of Latin.
Thanks for that, Jane. I think the governor wants to make the appointment where he didn't in St. Charles. He was confident they were going to have a very good prosecutor there. I don't think he feels that way about St. Louis County. I know that years ago, Governor John Ashcroft appointed the circuit attorney after George Peach left office in the city. He appointed a Republican, John Palazzolo. So there's precedent for the state filling these positions, and governors fill positions in counties all the time.
Parson did appoint the current city circuit attorney.
Correct.
And frankly, that's a part of the justice system that's really working. So, you know, I think people want to see that. I think the governor is aware of people's views on crime in the St. Louis region. So I'm not surprised that he wants to assert.
I'm not an attorney. You are.
It's a close call.
But the courts are going to decide this.
Yeah.
The FBI and the Federal Communications Commission are joining law enforcement agencies across the country in finding the source of apparent automated racist text messages first sent to African Americans across the country, including the high school-age son of St. Louis Mayor Tashara Jones. Now there are reports of similar hate messages going out to Hispanics and members of the LGBTQ communities. John, the national NAACP president, says the election of Donald Trump has emboldened racists to pull this off.
Well, that's a bridge too far. I mean, these things are repugnant. They need to find out the people responsible for sending them, and they need to be penalized under the law. But you can't blame Donald Trump for the actions of some idiots out there.
Should Trump say something about this, though? I don't think his spokeswoman says he absolutely had nothing to do with it, you know, but should he come out and say this needs to stop? And
it would be helpful. I mean, that's the bottom line. I think everybody needs to focus on, you know, tamping down the rhetoric. And this kind of hate stuff is really, really divisive. It's destructive, and it would be better if the leader of our country said so.
And I'm not, you know, trying to stoke conspiracy theories here, but does it make sense that maybe this is some foreign outside entity, some sort of hacker?
It's absolutely possible, and that's why it has to be investigated to the fullest extent, because if this is how it's going to start to roll, we need to put a stop to it right now, and he needs to get the intelligence agencies rocking and rolling and find out who's done it.
Up next, the balance of power in Congress, plus President Biden shows President-elect Trump how it's done. Also, what to make of Mr. Trump's top cabinet appointees or nominees, like Matt Gaetz for Attorney General.